my basic understanding of the Constitution was anything but the right direction for our country. As far as political involvement during high school, I usually spent most of my time questioning and complaining about the state of affairs in our country. But I soon came to realize that I was complaining a lot and nothing was really successfully getting accomplished. Therefore, I came to follow the conviction of, do not complain unless you can become a part of the solution. Having always functioned through a mentality of expecting results, I realized, before I was immersed in politics, I wasn't gaining any results except for really just making people really annoyed with my continuous banter. As far as political involvement at Hillsdale, which is already a politically conservative school, I knew I didn't have to be a part of the politically organized clubs. Needing to fit into that group wasn't necessary for me since I found myself already a part of it by just attending the college. During my sophomore year, I wanted to do something involving my political science major, represent my education, and I wanted to do this politically. So I applied to the Washington Hillsdale internship program, and I was lucky enough to be accepted, and I found myself going to Washington, D.C. during the fall of my junior year. I had no real political experience, and I wanted to see what I was getting into before I took on a full-time internship and classes during that next fall. So I applied to work as an intern in Congressman Greg Walden's district office in Bend, Oregon. I was accepted and could not have been happier to be working in my home state, use my education, and learn about the workings of our federal government. This internship at the district level allowed for me to meet with real people concerned about the policy being put forth in Washington, D.C. Through that experience, I gained an understanding of why our right to free speech is so important for the American citizens. I recognize that the health care bill, the cap and trade bill, and the stimulus package were going to have a major impact on our nation. These concerned Americans were well within their rights to state their thoughts regarding the bills and their thoughts on how the federal government was handling this legislation. After all, Abraham Lincoln stated in his Gettysburg Address, "This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth." Recognizing this factual and basic purpose of our government simply increased my desire to head to Washington, D.C. I was soon accepted to serve as an intern in the United States Capitol building under Congressman Walden. In this internship, I gave tours of the United States Capitol building to constituents from my home state of Oregon. I helped staff with projects, and I also did normal intern duties of sorting mail, sorting faxes, 912 March crowd control, and answered telephone calls. Through these phone calls I received, I heard appeals of help that were inherent in the desire to save our nation. A common issue brought to my attention by constituents was that the government needed to realize what decisions were being made would affect the youth of future generations. The interesting part of these phone calls is that they were coming from businessmen, lawyers, doctors, nurses, mothers, fathers, grandparents. I can probably count on one hand how many times I had a youth call in to express their concern. While in Congressman Walden's office in Washington, I quickly discovered that his staff were some of the hardest working and most driven people I have ever met in my entire life. Not only were they constantly working incredibly long hours to serve the congressman's needs, but at the same time, I felt like they had it in their heart, the desire to help the state of Oregon maintain a presence in D.C. The votes made in D.C. would certainly have an effect on Oregon, and the desire to create a prosperous future for Oregonians was obvious in all of the work the staffers successfully accomplished. The future of the state is what the youth of now will live in. Surely it becomes necessary to recognize that the future of our state and our country lies in the hands of the United States youth. I brought this ideal home with me this summer to Oregon. This summer, I am working as a field representative, helping on various campaigns around the state. I'm working in Central Oregon to ensure that the candidate that will bring principle and life back to the state of Oregon is receiving as much support as I can give to them. I am learning what paths need to be taken to help a candidate succeed. I am learning that even the less glamorous jobs, such as phone banking, help in the very least of name recognition in the hopes to gain the candidate more votes. A candidate that maintains personal drive and desire for Oregon to be led by competent leaders is essential for the state of Oregon to be turned in the right direction. The equation is simple. Candidates win by votes. That reason is why I'm a field representative this summer. I want the right candidate for Oregon to receive the votes. After all, the winners will have the ability to lay the overarching direction of our future as a resident of the state and as a citizen of this amazing country. It is time for us, the young people, to get involved in our country's politics, just as you Tea Partiers have. The legislative actions that are going on in Washington, D.C. will affect Americans in the long term. The administration in D.C. right now believes that the more they regulate business, the stronger our nation will become. It is obvious our founders never intended for this nation to become a socialist state. Our country has, from the signing of the Constitution and through time, continued to function and grow on market capitalist principles. It is our job as the emerging leaders and citizens of this nation to maintain this mentality. If our paychecks are taxed to death, and if there is no economic growth, is this okay? If we aspire to be economic leaders, we cannot let government choke us off. We have to maintain the founding principles of personal and economic freedom. When you see firsthand, as I have, the potential loss of these freedoms, then you'll want to get others involved. With the knowledge of what must be accomplished to direct our nation, we can intelligently defeat the feared total governmental control. It's our lives that are being affected. I want to make my own decisions in the future. Do you? Through my work in Washington, D.C. and my campaign work this summer, I see that it is essential for this country to guard its values and laws. Our freedom to speak, thereby expressing our concern, is only part of the solution. We must act. We cannot just talk. I am here today because of my commitment to our political structure. I am here to help. Let me help you. My desire is to get people, but especially young people, involved in politics. I am committed to a political career of some kind. How can I help you? If you're a parent, how can I get your children involved? Thank you so much for your time today. It has been a real pleasure to speak with you.